I'd like to thank the grace of heaven, the virtues of the masters, the mercy and compassion of the grand predecessors, transmitters, temple masters, lecturers, and everybody else for giving me this opportunity to talk about today's topic, which is chapter 34 of the Tao Te Ching. Okay, try to find my mouse. Where is it? Okay, there. All right, chapter 34, which is to, okay, achieve greatness. All right, that's the title. It's in three sections, three main sections. The first section is talking first four or five phrases, talking what the Tao is like. Okay, and then section 2 and section 2 talking about what its characteristic, what its innate characteristics. Same thing with, and then the conclusion is in 2 parts. All right. First, just talking, summarizing, okay, if you will. All right. What the Tao could be called, and what the sages also can do to emulate the Tao or to achieve. Okay. All right. Now let's go to the outline. All right. Here it is. Achieve greatness. Okay. All right. So the great Tao is like a flood. It can flow left or right. Okay. Fan, this word means flood, just flood. Okay. Usually flood, big to float. Okay. But now it's a flood. Okay. So the basic meaning of the first phrase, it's a further step, additional step in describing this great Tao as being like a flood. All right. Because previously, all right, we have used water as a metaphor for the Tao, right? Remember chapter 8, be like water. The second phrase of chapter 28, okay, which is being the water course of the world, okay? All right, Wei Tian Xia Xi, okay, the water course, okay, or the mountain streams, valleys, rivers, okay, your streams, all right? Last phrase, chapter 32, know where to rest, just talked about 2 weeks ago, as being the ocean, right? Instead of just a river or water, it's the ocean, all right? Okay, but since the Tao is all pervasive, so it's more like water flooding everywhere. It fills up the entire space, if you will. Okay, so this is a further extension of describing the Tao. Okay, not just being water, but it's like a flood. Okay. All right. So additional meaning. It's this: the great Tao doesn't just encompass everything, but it also saturates everything in reality. So, encompass everything means it's grand, right? Vast. But it's also minute in that it's in every little corner or every little crack or every little hole. Okay. All right. So just as the flood waters seep into everything, similarly, the Tao doesn't just surround everything, right? It's vast. It is also within everything. Okay, so or inside everything. As in the force between molecules that binds things together is the Tao too. Okay, so the force. Okay, all right. All right, let's go to the second phrase. All right, basic meaning is okay. Flooding is a good example of water's ultimate flexibility, flowing left or right. Right, water it has a form, but it doesn't have a fixed shape. Well, it can take a fixed shape according to whatever container it's in, right? So if it's in a square container or cube container or something, you put in the freezer, it freezes, then it forms a cube, right? It becomes a cube, etc. You fill a teacup with what? So it takes the shape of the teacup or the interior of the teacup. Okay, so another meaning is if the water is blocked in one place, it immediately finds another place to flow. Okay, it's always it's flexible, it's adaptable. Okay, maybe you can say that. All right. Another meaning of second phrase: it will flow wherever it wants to. So just as there's no stopping the Tao, so the Tao is everywhere. You can't stop it. It's its nature. It's just everywhere. Okay. All right, the greater understanding. Here it is. Deeper understanding. The great Tao is infinitely broad. Okay, so that's a concept we have to recognize. The Tao, that term. It's infinite. Okay, it's extremely vast, filling up the cosmic void and encompassing all the Dharma realms. So that includes the celestial heavens, if you will. I mean, the underworld too, celestial heavens, the arhat realms, or the realm of the formlessness, the arhat realms, the bodhisattva realms, okay, and even the dharma dhatu. Okay. Okay, higher understanding. Yet this infinitely vast Tao isn't just around us, which we can perceive by our sides. It's around us, being very close to us, but it's also within us. Okay, so that's the more important thing. All right, so the implication is the Tao is continuous, keeps going, doesn't care if it's stopped in one place, for it will find another place, just like a flood. All right, so here's the general, and then the general key point is the great Tao is unstoppable, just like a flood water getting in everywhere and everything, or like a river naturally finding a way to the ocean. Okay, so then the personal is when you have the Tao within you, you move forward like a great flood, getting in everywhere and everything. You cannot be stopped, overcoming all obstacles because you are versatile like water. Okay, so when we say we're Tao, that means if you are enlightened, right? Not only is are you you see everything clearly, you know everything, but you also encompass everything. You are in everything. Okay, so there's no differentiation between you and any other objects. All right, so that's the highest level. Okay, that's what a Buddha is. Okay, all right. Okay, let's go to the second line, if you will. All right. All right. Okay. Mirrored things depend on it for life, but it never stops. So what does that mean? Okay. Let's go to the basic meaning is the Tao is not just the source of creation, but also the source of life. And it continues to create, to continue giving rise to life. It never refuses to be the source of all life. Okay? So another way, meaning is that by observing nature and the world, sages saw that the Tao never ceases to encourage or promote the arising of life everywhere, from the depths of oceans to the high mountains, from the dark, deep caves to the arid, dry deserts. The influence of this great Tao is extensive and vast, right? So, scientists, well, it's just more recently, discovered that, yeah, even though in the deepest, darkest oceans, the ocean trenches or whatever, you know, there is life. It's different form of life, but there's still life. Same thing, the high mountains. We find bacteria. Living in some cracks, or or moss, or things like that. Okay. Similarly, in the deep dark caves, right, where there's no light supposedly, and yet they exist. Since there's water in a lot of the caves, they have some fish that are blind, or insects, stuff like that. And same thing with the deserts. You would think that it's there's no water, it's very hot and arid, yet there exists either lizards or other insects, etc. Okay, so the Tao, it's in its very nature, it always promotes life. Okay, all right. So the additional meaning is the Tao, okay, by promoting the arising of life, is the continuous source of existence. Okay, so it always, okay, just that. Okay, so here it is. Because of this innate life-centric or life-promoting characteristic of Tao, the Tao is often described as the nourishing mother, 慈母. Okay, that's the last phrase of chapter 20. All right. Okay, deeper understanding. The Tao ceaselessly continues to provide the overall environment that is necessary for life. So we have the sun, right? Who can, the ultimate source of life, we say, because it provides heat, warmth, right? Because, and also, power for photosynthesis for plants, right? To thrive. The earth, we have the soil, right? The climate, the changing seasons, the weather, the ecology, the air, water, soil, etc. So these are all, you can say, essential or necessary ingredients to what? Continue to give life or promote life. Okay, so higher understanding is all things depend on the Tao for their creation and existence, and their dependence on the Tao will not be dismissed or refused. In other words, Tao will not, refuse to provide the necessary, you can say, ingredients or factors for life to grow or to exist or to flourish. So Tao never ceases giving rise to life. It never ceases. Okay, it never ceases. Okay, it never ceases to promote creation and existence. Where are we? Okay, right here. Okay. It never ceases to support and nourish life. Okay. All right. So the implication is, okay, Tao can be viewed as the cradle of life, that not only does it make life possible, but also continuously sustains, supports, and nurtures all things. So all life depends on the continuous changes and transformations caused by the great Tao, right? Such as the weather, the seasons, etc. Okay? All right. Key point. Okay. Everything relies on the Tao for their existence. The great Tao is not just the source of all existence, for the dependence of all things on it, for their nourishment and support will not be declined or refused. Okay, so that's the general, broad, okay, the general, how come that's weird. Okay, the general and broad aspect, okay? Then the personal is this. Just like the Tao, there's no end to the compassionate nurturing that you can provide to others. So the Tao masters, that's what they all do, or they, but by guiding, teaching, encouraging, supporting, assisting, etc. Okay? So the Tao masters emulate the Tao. You can say they're congruent, they're in tune with the Tao. So, all right. Then, okay, so this is the last, last phrase of section 1. Okay. All right. Okay, so here it goes. Okay. It, meaning the Tao, okay, achieves its work, but does not take credit. Okay, so that's what's special about the Tao. Okay, so the Tao ceaselessly creates and continues to give life. That's what its work is, right? That's what it does. But it does not claim credit for them. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, so there's nothing the great Tao cannot do and does not dwell on them, but it doesn't dwell on them. Okay, so the Tao can do everything or anything, but it doesn't dwell on. Okay, it doesn't say, "Hey, look how great I am, how awesome, right? You should worship me," stuff like that. Okay, all right. Additional meaning. So this from a personal perspective. Likewise, a Tao cultivator is capable of many achievements, even things others may consider difficult and impossible, and has no need to take credit or become well known or receive praise. Same thing, right? So the Tao sages, especially, right? They can achieve many great things, and yet they don't take credit. They don't, they, you know, they're not, they didn't do it to seek praise, okay, or to be famous or well known. Okay, so deeper. When you aspire to the greatness of the Tao, you are happy to let others have the spotlight because you have no need to claim credit for your contributions. Okay, higher understanding is the creation of the entire cosmos and worlds of the great Tao is what is truly amazing. Okay, it's the creation. Okay, so that's what makes it really amazing. Okay, so the great Tao can accomplish anything, but it will not claim the credit. Okay, so that's the most implication of this phrase. And then the key point is that great Tao does not take credit for all its work. The credit all belongs to the entire heaven and earth. This is what we should strive to emulate. So we should not think of ourselves as extraordinary. Okay? So the credit belongs to everything else. Okay? The entire heaven and earth. Okay? Everything else. All right. Now we're in section 2. Okay. All right. Section 2, first phrase. Okay, first sentence. Okay. So, lovingly. Now, okay, there are two versions, okay, in the Tao Te. They use either this phrase, this word, or this character, okay? So the first character, lovingly, it just to love lovingly, okay, or affection, okay, okay. So the alternative character in some versions, it means close, okay, to close, okay. So it means the same thing, similar. So lovingly, it nourishes the Tao, or it clothes and nourishes mirror things, but does not become their master. Okay. Not only does the Tao not claim credit, but it also does not become their master. It doesn't want to dominate. Okay. So the basic meaning is in the natural world, the Tao unconditionally provides the merit things with the necessities of life, such as air, water, food, shelter, etc. This means the Tao is fundamentally benevolent from a human characteristic point of view, okay? And giving life every chance to grow. Thus, the Tao, quote unquote, lovingly nourishes all things, just as we are forced to give the unnamed a label, right? The Tao, right? It's unnamed, but we have to give it a name, right? This is in the previous chapters, okay? All right, so that's in the natural world. Now, here's another meaning in the with respect to the human world perspective. As a Tao cultivator, as someone who emulates the Tao, people will naturally approach you for advice and suggestions. Okay, because number one, you don't claim credit. Number two, you don't want to dominate others. So naturally, people would be very willing to listen to you, right? Or to ask you for advice, suggestions, etc. Okay. Additional meaning is all things rely on the great Tao for their support and nourishment, okay, which the great Tao provides lovingly, okay, because its trait is to always create life, to have life thrive and flourish, okay. All right. Okay, further understanding. All the myriad objects and things emerged from the great Tao and are completed by the great Tao. Okay, so completed means, in the sense, it's nourished, right? It enables all things to thrive, flourish. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Now the second phrase, which is all will follow by them. Sorry. Oh, the second phrase is does not become their master. Okay. So basic meaning is that in the natural world perspective, the Tao does not try to rule or dominate over anyone or anything. Right. It doesn't say to, little, mirror things says, because I'm your creator and I, nourish you all or I sustain you all. You have to worship me. You have to make offerings to me, stuff like that. Okay. Okay. Here's another from the human world perspective. It's a high level cultivator. Okay. A Tao master or sage would make no attempt to rule, control, or dominate the people that they assist, advise, or nurture. Okay, same idea. All right, it's a parallel. Okay, between the great Tao, the formless Tao, and a Tao cultivator. Okay, so anyone who teaches, guides, or assists others, and also try to dominate them or be their master, does not understand the Tao. So that's contrary to the nature of Tao. Okay? Right. So the great Tao unconditionally, okay, supports and quote unquote lovingly nourishes all living things, but does not rule over them. All right? Okay, does not dominate, does not want to become their master. Okay, so higher understanding is similarly, a Tao cultivator compassionately provides people with not just material assistance, but also spiritual sustenance, such as guidance and life, without being domineering. Okay? So the implication is all things are nurtured by the great Tao, but the Tao does not rule over them. Okay? All right. So just like the great Tao in the natural world, Tao masters will not dominate others because they recognize the essential equality of all sentient beings, and their intention is to help without passing judgment on anyone. All right? Okay, that's what the Tao sages, masters, they mirror the natural Tao, the great Tao, right? In this trait, you can say. Okay. Okay. Then let's go to this is the last sentence of section 2. Let's see. Last section of section 2. Here it goes. Okay. Oh, man. All right. Constantly without desire, it can be named as insignificant. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, here it is. Basic meaning. The Tao has no human desires. It simply is what it is. Okay, simply does what it does. The great Tao doesn't want or need anything. Yeah, it doesn't have to need anything, right? Okay, so that's what this means. Okay, that's phrase, constantly without desire. Okay. All right, another meaning. Okay, in the natural world, phenomena such as light, electricity, gravity, all the natural forces, etc., they simply are what they are. Then they simply do what they do. They don't want or need anything. They just are, just is. Okay. Now, from the human perspective, world perspective, it's in emulating the Tao. Okay, advanced cultivators learn to moderate their desires, okay, and avoid excesses. All right, so that's in the last section, the last lines of chapter 19 is, um, uh, simplicity and plainness, which it says is to show plainness and hold simplicity, reduce selfishness, decrease desires. Okay, so that's all right. And also in chapter 29, which says, if I can find it, hold on. Okay, it says to, therefore the sage eliminates extremes, eliminates excess, and eliminates arrogance. Okay, so you guys can look at that up. All right, further understanding of first phrase. This is the result of their realization, the Tao sages, that excessive desires will always become obsessive attachments that will lead to negative consequences. So the actions that we take should be free of desires and attachments. Okay, so this is the notion of not unconditional, right? Remember, just like the great Tao, unconditionally, right? You know, uh, nourishes or is life promoting, etc., etc. Okay, the notion of wu wei. I mean, it'll be specifically talked about in detail in chapter 37. Okay, so I'm gonna get there. All right. Okay. Uh, even though it was mentioned in the previous chapters already, I think it's chapter. Is it? I want to say 3 or 5. It's one of those early chapters. Okay. Anyway, we should be acting from the pure essence of the Tao. And when that happens, when we emulate the Tao, we are just like the Tao. We will not have the extraneous desire or need for recognition, accolade, agenda, conditions, or expectations. Okay. Once again, so that's the wu wei. So the pure essence when we're acting. So if you are truly in that state, if you will, that's the natural trait tendency. You have you have no sense of conditions. Okay, it's unconditional. Okay, so that's the wu wei. Okay, all right. Let's go to the second phrase, basic meaning. What's the second phrase? Does not mean physically tiny or minute. Okay, but in this context means insignificant. Okay, see, 可名于小, right? That means can be named as insignificant. Okay, okay, in the sense of being imperceptible, unnoticed, or regarded as unimportant by most people. Okay, chapter 36. Okay, it's going to talk about subtle clarity. So it's similar to this. Okay, something that's very minute, that it appears insignificant, yet is very, very important. Okay, so it's easily unnoticed. Okay, or for most people regarded as unimportant because it's very subtle. Okay, very imperceptible. Okay, all right. So another meaning, to be small conveys the meaning of being unnoticed or unnoticeable, relegated as unimportant as compared to the real life measures of success or importance by most people, such like fortune, fame, power, etc. Right? For most people, those are you can say measures of success. Okay, and they are noticeable, right? Fortune, right? People will notice fortune. Fame, likewise, right? Being famous, notorious, etc. And being powerful, right? So people will notice these qualities. Okay. All right. Unfortunately, that's not the Tao. Okay. All right. All right. Or that's contrary to the Tao. Okay. To the way of the Tao. Okay. Or to the nature of the Tao. Okay. So to be named as insignificant means most people will not consider the Tao as being important or even aware of it in the first place. Okay. This is because the Tao seeks no credit and does not try to draw attention or elevate itself in any way. It's desireless. Okay. All right. It's you can say it's wu-wei, right? It has no intentions, no conditions attached. Okay. So for now, just like the Tao, cultivators feel the same way. So number one, it is more important to do the work than taking credit for the work. Number two, giving others the help they need without trying to control them or judging them for needing help in the first place. This is the ultimate example of unconditional compassion. Okay, so that's yeah. A lot of times, yeah, we're willing to help without trying to control them, but in the back of our minds, we often have we form judgments. Unfortunately, we have opinions. Okay, and we got to be careful. Okay, we have to be very mindful. Okay, all right, that all right. Have no third is have no particular desire for external validation or recognition. Have no desire to pursue accolades, praise. Okay, that's praise or recognition. All right, that's what true Tao cultivators would do. Okay, so deeper understanding. Okay, the great Tao doesn't want or need anything because it is extremely extensive and vast. But since it's invisible and formless, it is unnoticed by most people. All right. Okay. Higher understanding is okay. Although the great Tao is extremely vast, it is at the same time imperceptible because its essence is invisible. Okay. The first line of chapter 2 is the first two phrases. Okay, it's in the first line. Basically, the eternal nameless Tao is simplicity, although imperceptible, right? Cannot be treated by the world as subservient. Subservient. Okay, so that's the first line, if you will, sentence of chapter 32. All right, we just talked about it a couple of weeks ago. All right. Implication. Now, the general is this. Okay. It's the great Tao doesn't want or need anything, and nothing is smaller than it. So it is easily unnoticed. Right. Okay. It doesn't seek, right? Fortune, fame, or power. Right. Okay. At a personal level, it's similarly due to the low profile and seamless approach of Tao cultivators. What they do may not be noticed as important or significant. All right, goes unnoticed. Okay, that's okay. All right, because that's being congruent to the Tao. Okay, all right. Okay, so the great Tao has no desires, but because it is formless and invisible, and nothing is smaller than it, so it is imperceptible and considered insignificant by most people. All right. So that's the that's the last sentence of section 2. Now let's go to section 3. Okay. Right. Okay, section 3. the first half. Okay. So we're in the conclusion now. Okay. Mirrored things return to it, but does not become their master. Okay. Return to it means the Tao. Okay. All right. Okay. Basic meaning. Here it is. In the general level, all things eventually return to the Tao, like all rivers flowing into the ocean. Remember the last phrase of chapter 32? Okay. Okay. An example for the existence of the Tao in the world. Okay, that's the second to the last. The last phrase is, it's like valley streams that run into rivers and oceans. Okay, same idea. All right. Okay. On a personal level, all human souls also must eventually return to the great Tao, to the origin, to the source. Okay. All right. So, additional meaning in the human realm is that in terms of human interactions, it means those who possess the Tao tend to naturally attract good things and people to them seemingly effortlessly. Okay. All right. You're like a magnet, right? Because you you're like the source of everything. All right. Okay. So further understanding is same phrase as the second line above. Okay, second line above is to what? It can flow. Sorry. It can flow left or right. Okay. 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 Same thing as the second line above. And above. Okay. Sorry, second up I means mirror things depend on it for life, but it never stops. Okay. It achieves the work, but does not take credit. Okay. So but not so much as being the ruler or master of a thing of all things, rather as being the true home, right? Okay, so this is using the same you can say rationale or logic as the second line in section 1, but it's now instead of being the ruler or master, it's being the true home. Okay, all right, all things return to it, right? That's what this section says, right? Okay. Okay, so deeper understanding is everything eventually returns to the great Tao, but it does not rule over them and is the source of everything. Okay, so higher understanding is just as all things must return to the Tao as their source, right? Wan Fa Gui Yi, right? All humans also must return to their source, their origin, the true permanent home. Okay, all right. So everything will return to the great Tao, but the great Tao does not rule over them and is the ultimate source and home of everything. All right. Well, the key point. Although mirrored things depend on the great Tao, but the Tao does not rule over them or does not, you know, want to be their master or be domineering, etc. And everything must return to the source. So likewise, all human souls must return to their true permanent home. All right. So that's important. Okay. So we have to know where is our permanent home, okay, or where we came from, where's our origin, our source. Okay, all right. This is the last phrase of the first half of the conclusion. Okay, okay. It can be named as great now. Okay, even though it is. Remember in the previous section, the middle section, it says it can be named as insignificant, right? Well, the literal translation means small, xiao, but it means insignificant. Yet, because it doesn't, it's life promoting, it sustains life, it gives life, etc., and yet it doesn't want to be its master nor dominate them, right? Okay. and everything must return to it, right? Right here. Okay. Okay. All right. So it follows because of those traits, it is called great or named as great. Okay. So the basic meaning is since the Tao is where we came from and where we return to, we can be justified in calling it great. Yeah. It's a source of everything. All right. Okay. Just like the great Tao, the people who have been helped by a Tao practitioner may call that person great, right? Similar, okay? We call, Jesus, right? Buddha, Confucius, etc., etc. All these, that's great, right? Great people, okay? All right. Additional meaning. The Tao cultivators, though, would say that the greatness is about the Tao and not about themselves, right? That's very important, right? Okay. All right. So they don't take personal credit for themselves. For them, it's not about themselves. It's about the Tao. All right. That's what's truly great. Right. Okay. Since nothing can be smaller than the great Tao, right? Just the two lines above, right? In the middle section, okay. Insignificant, small. But also, nothing is greater than it because everything must return to it. So it's everything. It's all encompassing. It's it's tiny. It's you can say it's insignificant, right? Okay, and yet nothing is beyond it or greater than it because everything must return back to it. All right. Okay. So the implication is the Tao is also great because it contains everything. Nothing is beyond the Tao. Okay. That's what phrase is about being named as great. Okay. So the key is the Tao is great because everything must return to it and it encompasses everything. All right, because nothing is greater than it. Okay, so now we are in the second half, the conclusions section. Okay, thus, thus, the sages in the inn do not regard themselves as great. Okay, so the sages, just like the Tao, they mirror the Tao, right? Okay, so the basic meaning is similar to the Tao that does not regard itself as great, since it has no human emotions nor opinions about itself at all. The sages also do not regard themselves as great. Right? Okay. So another meaning is sages take the egoless approach. Now, that this is more specific. Okay, the broader would be the wu-wei or non-conditional approach in life because they also emulate the Tao. All right. Okay, the sages succeed and excel because they apply the Tao. They can clearly see that they themselves are not great. Okay, sages understand that all the credit goes to the great Tao, right? The credit goes to actually everything, right? Because the great Tao contains everything. So the credit actually goes to everything, right? Heaven and earth, etc., etc. All right. Okay. The deeper meaning of sages is specifically refers to our Buddha nature. Okay, Buddha nature essence. All right. Okay. So the Buddha nature essence doesn't regard themselves or itself as great because what? It's non-conditioned, right? It has no ego, right? Okay. All right. So our Buddha nature essence is great since it's also the Tao essence, but it does not consider it as great because it is egoless, right? Okay. So our Buddha nature is egoless and does not differentiate between sentient beings. So it had no desire to be great. Yeah? So they treat every sentient being as equal. Because why? It's not because of the forms or the state, status, etc. Of them, but what's the most essential uh, single criterion that makes Buddha nature, makes the Buddha nature treat everything or all sentient beings as equals is because they also have the same Buddha nature. Okay, all right. So, wow. Okay, this is a lot, but it's a lot of references. Okay, sages practice and promote the Tao on behalf of heaven. They understand the greatness lies with Tao, not themselves. Sages emulate the Tao of humility. Okay, chapter 7, they have it there. Chapter 8 talks about being like water. Chapter 10 talk about sustaining achievements. Chapter 15, chapter 22, chapter 24, chapter 29. Okay, so and you can see it. And these are just some. Okay, there are a lot more. Okay, all the previous chapters, all not that may not be the only theme in some of these chapters. Okay, but they all promote the notion of what being humble, humility, okay, non-ego, etc., etc. Okay, non-arrogance. All right. Okay. All right. So that's an overarching theme. Okay, there are a couple themes we can summarize when we reach the end of the classic, but humility or non-arrogance is one of them. Okay, another theme, or you can say pillar, gang, okay, gang wei, yeah, pillar, okay, principle, pillar, foundation, okay, is also harmony. Okay, but they're related because you can't have harmony without non-ego or non-arrogance. Okay, that's the dynamic there. Okay, the paradigm. So here, all these chapters talks, the Lao Tzu stresses, the principle, the notion of humility, because or egolessness, okay, or non-ego, okay, is because that's a necessary quality in order to have harmony, overall harmony. All right, okay, all right. So the implication: sages emulate the great Tao, so they do not regard themselves as great. Likewise, our Buddha nature is egoless and has no desire to be great. Right? It's self-sufficient. It has everything. So why does it has a desire to be great? There's no need, right? Okay. All right. So, all right. Sages realize that they are administering or managing all things on behalf of heaven. Okay, on behalf of heaven. Okay, all right. Okay, and understand they succeed and achieve because they emulate and apply Tao. So they do not regard themselves as great. All right. Okay. So too, our Buddha nature is humble and has no ego nor desire to be great. Okay, I kind of lost track. Okay. All right. Okay. Now we're at the last phrase of the conclusion. So this is how they can achieve greatness. So, right, that's what the the theme of this chapter: achieve greatness, right? To achieve greatness. Yep. Okay. Basic meaning. Okay. That, the first word here, that, okay. That, okay, refers to the Tao as regarding itself as not great. So that is how it can achieve its greatness. Okay. It's kind of it's kind of like oxymoron, yeah, because the Tao does not regard itself as great, but that is how it achieves its greatness. It's kind of like counterintuitive, right? Okay, so here's another way of looking at it. Conversely, because it does not regard itself as great, the Tao achieves its greatness. That's how it does. So, I don't say the hidden, but the subtle understanding, the deeper understanding is that when when one does not regard itself as great, what does that mean? Or what does that imply? Or imply. Okay, what? You're humble, right? The humility, the Tao of humility. It's because if you're humble, that's how you become great. All right. Okay. So it's not being arrogant. Okay. So if you're arrogant, you're not going to achieve greatness. All right. Okay. Yeah. You may be known. Yeah. You could be notorious. Okay. Or recognized, name recognition, etc. Okay. So that's the key, right? So if it does not regard yourself, that means you're humble, right? Just in the previous section, we talked about that, right? Okay. All right. Okay. So the meaning is, all right, here it is. Okay. Let's see okay, here it is. Okay. All right. So the Tao that does not and cannot regard itself as great turns out to be the ultimate greatness. Okay, section 2. What's section 2 of chapter 22? It's a whole section. It says, not self-displaying or flaunting, okay, are, okay, not self-asserting or presuming. Okay, well, first, not self-displaying or flaunting is to see clearly, okay, and not self-asserting or self-presuming is to be distinguished. Not self-approving or self-seeking is to have merit, and not self-boasting or self-praising is to be lasting. Okay, so that's what the section 2. All right, it's okay. You guys can look it up. All right, of chapter 22. All right. Okay. Further, conversely, one who boasts about his greatness appears increasingly desperate with each boast because he needs to prove it with each boast. Okay, so that's section 2 of chapter 24. Okay, which is those who self-display or self-flaunt are not clear. Okay, so I'm not talking about the opposite from chapter 22. Okay, those who self-assert or self-presume are not distinguished. Those who self-approve or self-seek have no merit, and those who self-boast or self-praise do not last. Okay, all right. Okay, so deeper understanding in emulating the Tao. Sages who do not regard themselves as great will invariably and paradoxically be regarded by others as truly great. Okay? So, all right. To be regarded as great is simply just a natural byproduct of sages who emulate the Tao. All right? Likewise, our true nature does not need to boast because it's already perfect and self-sufficient. All right? Okay, so we have to understand that. All right, that's why we have to know ourselves, understand our true nature, our Buddha nature. All right? Okay, implication. As Tao cultivators, we should emulate the sages because that is how to achieve greatness. We should strive to be our true selves. Okay. All right. Here comes the key point. Okay. Here's the conclusion. Okay. All right. Just like those who have achieved greatness in the past, right? All those sages, etc. Okay. They are examples worthy of emulating. Okay. Because they are all for the sentient beings and not for oneself or not for themselves. Okay. So, okay. So neither, okay, for selfishness nor self-benefit, right? None of those sages of the past or, people who are great, they don't do it for selfish reasons nor to benefit themselves. So all of this is worthy of emulating. This is how to achieve greatness. All right. Okay. Now, there are just three key concepts. This is very straightforward. All right. Okay. Of chapter 34. One is that it's everywhere. Okay. Ever present. Nothing is larger than it and nothing is smaller than it. Okay. So just everywhere, ever present. The Tao is also ceaselessly or nonstop, continuously nurturing, always giving rise to life, nourishing and sustaining life. Okay. In chapter 35, 35, we'll go into a little bit more detail. Okay. All right. Or talk a little bit more. All right. From another perspective. Okay. All right. Tao is desireless. It has no human emotions. No human emotions. It has no ego. Okay, so the great Tao doesn't want or need anything because it does not regard itself as great. All right, it has no ego to be great. All right, the Tao achieves its greatness, and how? Okay, no desire to take credit. Okay, all right, no desire to be the master or to dominate. Okay. And finally, no desire to be great. All right. So that's the three key concepts that you can see throughout sections 1 and 2. All right. Of this chapter. Okay. I think, I finished a little bit early. Okay. So that concludes this chapter. So if I said anything incorrectly or wrong, I ask for the Buddha's and Lao Tzu's forgiveness and guidance. Okay, thank you.
This chapter talk about virtues of Tao and the sages. That's what the virtues of Tao and sages, that we can learn from them.
We should emulate. We should be like them, you know. But the sages are sages because they are with the Tao. They reflect the Tao. They mirror the Tao. They are the same as Tao. Okay, you can say that, congruent to the Tao. They're in tune with the Tao. So if we want to be, like them, we're on that path, right? Of you can say following the Tao, path for enlightenment. So we're not sages yet, but if we do it very well, we'll be like 君子, right? Superior person. Okay, we're not there yet. Okay, so a superior person is someone who is, you can say, a pretty advanced or high level Tao cultivator, right? They're not yet sages, but they're getting there, right? They're approaching that. Okay, so this chapter encourages that we should basically emulate the Tao, what the Tao is. Okay, so that's why we have to learn what is the Tao, right?
Then if you are acting according to the Tao, then you are the Tao.
You are it. You are it. There's no differentiation, no separation. Okay, so then you are it.